Howdy y'all, Kaloth here. We had one other piece of news yesterday that I actually didn't cover yesterday, and that was the reveal of the new Conquest unit, Taron Malicos. If you're not familiar with Taron Malicos, he's one of the first bosses in Jedi Fallen Order. He is, kind of to give a brief overview, he is a dark Jedi who fell in with the Night Sisters, ended up leading the Night Brothers. He's not really going to be associated with the Night Sisters or the Night Brothers. He's not going to be associated with Darth Maul or Savage Opress or anything, even though that would have been a great 3v3 Omicron. But he is going to be an unaligned Force user. Just kind of like my video when we talked about the data mine of Taron Malicos. I said, well, maybe he'll be a Cere lifter or a Lord Vader lifter so Maul can go live with the Mandalorians. And that pretty much seems exactly what he is, or at least what he's meant to do. So let's talk the kit, and then I've got a couple ideas for uses here. Here he is in all his glory, Taron Malicos, attacker, unaligned Force user. That is it. The key attributes, they say, is a devastating attacker with an assortment of potent debuffs. That seems to be very much the case. Skirts the edge of madness with 2 new effects which improve his offensive capabilities, and has GAC Omicrons, best Omicrons in the game, so that's definitely worth it. And of course, as a Conquest unit, he has 3 GAC Omicrons. He has 3 Omicrons, so big investment there, but a lot of good options, and it doesn't look like all 3 will be necessary, but we'll get into that. So inspiration is from his appearance in Jedi Fallen Order. They talk a little bit about what I mentioned. He's a former Jedi. He went mad after Order 66, and they apparently one of the developers had a problem with this boss in JFO, so they said he's going to be good in our game. Strategy. You want to let Edge of Madness is a self debuff stack up, so you can make use out of it with his abilities, specifically Vile Thrash. Edge of Madness is going to make him a little weaker. It's a stacking defense debuff, so that's going to be an issue. And here we go. Actually, remember that Edge of Madness reduces his defense stat per stack, leaving him vulnerable to burst damage from your opponent. So you want to keep him healthy. And as mentioned here, this is CG's explicit design intent. He's meant as an option for Lord Vader's squad if you'd like to use Maul elsewhere. But his main target home is for Cere's unaligned Force user squad. And as we get into the kit, that's very much what he is. He's a strong unaligned Force user synergy here. So let's get into the kit. Here's his basic. Dark Strike, deal physical damage to target enemy, gain 2 stacks of Edge of Madness, max 100, until the end of the encounter, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. This attack cannot be countered, and Edge of Madness gives minus 2% defense per stack. Now, interesting to note here, so similar to Darth Maul, Taron is going to be debuffing himself, which plays into Lord Vader's kit. Lord Vader is going to be gaining ultimate when a debuffed unaligned Force user takes damage, right? He gets 3% ultimate as opposed to a debuffed any other ally gets 2% ultimate under a Lord Vader lead. What's kind of disappointing about this is the attack can't be countered bit, because if this... I think he would actually be much more interesting for Lord Vader if he put these debuffs on himself, attacked, and then could provoke that counterattack, so that he would take a little bit of damage, and that would feed Lord Vader's ultimate. If I were to redesign this character, I would put just a clause here. I would say if there are no allied GLs, this attack can't be countered. So you're still... Because in an unaligned Force user squad, again, you're stacking defensive debuffs on him. You don't want him taking damage. Preventing this attack from being countered is good. But when your leader is Lord Vader, you want to be taking some damage, and so like allowing this to be countered I think would have been cool for Lord Vader, but it is what it is. Special 1, Vile Thrash. This is cooldown of 3. It does have a Zeta. Deal physical damage to target enemy. Gain riposte for 2 turns. It's great for ignoring protection, right? This attack has 30% increased defense penetration, quadrupled, so 120% defense penetration, if all allies are dark side or light side unaligned force users. And here again is similar wording to what we had in the Cere kit. Dark side or light side unaligned force users. This explicitly ignores neutral unaligned force users, which we don't have in the game yet, but there are definitely some that we could foresee coming to the game eventually, right? My pet theory is that this November, when we see a new legacy event like Starkiller and Afra, assuming we do, that legacy event would be Mitra Surik, the Jedi exile from KOTOR 2, and that one of the requirements would be Kreia, who would be a neutral unaligned force user. So if a neutral unaligned force user is coming eventually, they don't work with Cere and they don't work with Taron Malicos, at least for key parts of their kit. But yeah, gain riposte, which is already going to ignore protection, and then has 120% defense penetration if you're on a full team of unaligned force users. But wait, there's more. If Malicos has at least 20 stacks of Edge of Madness, he takes a bonus turn. Bonus turns are always great. For every 20 stacks of Edge of Madness he has, dispel them. Gain a stack of Madness manifested until the next time he uses Die Whelp is defeated or at the end of the encounter. That Madness manifested can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. And if the ally in the leader slot is a dark side or light side unaligned force user, the cooldown of Die Whelp is reset. So he uses this. If you've got a full team of UFUs, it's going to be 120% defense penetration. You're going to get a bonus turn if he has at least 20 stacks of Edge of Madness, and then for every 20 stacks, he's going to dispel those. He's going to get the debuff Madness manifested until the next time he uses his special 2, which is going to have its cooldown reset if your leader is an unaligned force user. Madness manifested is the second debuff that he's going to be dealing with. It's minus 40% tenacity per stack. And the next time this character uses Die Whelp, it deals 50% more physical damage per stack, reduces the current max health of the target enemy by 15% for the rest of the battle, which stacks and excludes raid bosses and GLs. It can't be resisted, and it removes all stacks of Madness manifested. So, nice. Special 2, Die Whelp. It's got a cooldown of 6, but remember, Vile Thrash is going to help us reset the cooldown on that, and it's got an Omicron. Deal physical damage, inflict vulnerable to all enemies, and stun target enemy for 1 turn. If the target had defense down, this stun can't be resisted. If the target enemy is in the leader slot, increase their cooldowns by 1, which can't be resisted. Notable here, it does not exclude anything, so this is something that you can use to kind of hinder your opponent's GLs. This definitely affects Galactic Legends, at least by the reading here. And here's our Omicron. While in Grand Arenas, deal additional true damage to all enemies. Massive, especially if you've got, riposte on and you're already ignoring protection. Inflict buff immunity and healing immunity on target enemy for 2 turns, which can't be resisted. That's massive for several different teams. And if the ally in the leader slot is a dark side or light side unaligned force user, Malicos gains 20% crit damage and offense stacking until the end of the battle. So, in Grand Arena, this is going to be big, and every time he uses it, which again, you're going to be able to reset the cooldowns of this special, you're going to be stacking up more and more offense and crit damage, and he's just so much damage. And I mean, seriously, I know we looked at it in the data mine, but look at this. I absolutely love the animation here. I love the arena. This arena is very. I mean, it's very much the arena in Jedi Fallen Order on Dathomir where you fight him. That's his boss arena. So that looks really cool. So Unique 1, Echo of the Fallen Order, has a Zeta and an Omicron. Says all allies have 30% crit chance. If all allies were unaligned Force users at the start of the battle, when Malicos has at least one stack of Edge of Madness, whenever he scores a critical hit, all other allies gain 5% crit damage and offense, stacking until until the end of the encounter. Whenever an ally is inflicted with healing immunity, they dispel it and gain damage immunity for 1 turn. Whenever they're inflicted with stun, they dispel it and recover 30% health and protection. We're not even to the Omicron yet, and that's fantastic, right? If the entire team is unaligned Force users, you're making them just so much stronger here. While in Grand Arenas, enemies defeated by allies can't be revived. Massive. This effect persists even if Malicos is defeated. Usually, so if you defeat an enemy leader, the leadership is still on until the end of the encounter. If you defeat somebody else, or if you defeat that leader and they have a unique, but unique abilities are not like leadership abilities. Leadership abilities persist through the end of the encounter regardless if its person is alive. If you kill a character, their uniques are disabled. In this case, in Grand Arena, enemies defeated by allies can't be revived, even if Malicos is defeated. That's big in and of itself. But the first time another dark side or light side unaligned Force user ally would be reduced to 1% health. If Malicos is active, they recover 100% health and protection, gain damage immunity for 1 turn, take a bonus turn, and gain crit chance up, crit damage up, and offense up for 2 turns. Is a mini, well, not even a mini. This is very similar to Jedi Knight Revan's Savior, right? You're giving death protection to unaligned Force users. While Malicos is active, whenever an enemy with less than 100% turn meter gains bonus turn meter, Malicos gains a stack of Edge of Madness, and that enemy takes true damage, which can't be evaded. Limit once per turn. This damage can't defeat enemies. So. Going along with CG's pattern of trying to make speed a little less valuable. Of course, Cere Junda was kind of anti-speed. Tuskens have been anti-speed. This kind of plays into that. Also is very reminiscent of Darth Treya's leadership ability, right? When these enemies are going to be gaining bonus turn meter, they're going to be taking true damage that's going to be unable to defeat them, but is going to be lowering their health just kind of passively while they're gaining all that turn meter. Unique 2, Strength is Power, again, Zeta and Omicron. Text is, Malicos' attacks can't be evaded. Enemies defeated by him can't be revived. He has 75% counter chance and 100% health steal. That's great. So even as he's taking damage, he's got that high counter chance and 100% health steal where he's going to be siphoning health back to himself. At the start of the battle, he gains 25% offense for each other dark side or light side unaligned Force user, and if the ally is in the leader slot, is a dark side or light side unaligned Force user, he ignores taunt. While debuffed, he gains 50% health steal, which sounds to me like that is on top of the 100% health steal, right? So he's got 100% health steal. Once he's debuffed, and keep in mind he's debuffing himself, he's going to gain an additional 50% health steal. I believe I'm reading that right. I don't think that that's saying the 100% goes to 50%. I think that's adding an additional 50% on top of his 100%. Once we have the actual kit in game, we'll check the data mine and see if that's right. But I'm pretty sure that's how that's going to work. Whenever Malicos uses an ability during his turn, if he has accuracy up or defense up, he immediately uses Dark Strike. Whenever he attacks out of turn, he gains 10% crit damage for 3 turns, which stacks. Whenever he's inflicted with Daze, he dispels it and reduces his cooldowns by 1. Sorry, gas. Whenever an enemy dispels a debuff Malicos inflicted from one of his abilities, he gains a stack of Edge of Madness until the end of the encounter. So if enemies are somehow, whenever enemies are dispelling debuffs that he has placed, he is placing Edge of Madness on himself, actually. I read that wrong at first. In the Wild and Grand Arenas, at the start of the battle, Malicos gains a stack of Edge of Madness until the end of the encounter. All unaligned Force User allies gain crit hit immunity for 2 turns, which can't be dispelled. He has 100% max health and 50% mastery. Whenever he uses an ability during his turn, he immediately uses Dark Strike. Whenever he attacks out of turn, he gains Protection Up, 20% stacking for 1 turn, and this is the big one. Whenever any other unaligned Force User ally uses a special ability, Malicos assists. So what do we think about Malicos? He is clearly meant for Cere. He is meant for a full team of unaligned Force Users, and we'll get to that in a minute because there's another team of unaligned Force Users that I think he may actually end up living with. He may actually be an unintended GL lifter, and that GL is not Lord Vader. But this is everything the Cere Junda squad needed. If we look at Cere in SWGOH.gg, if we look at her counters, let's take a look at the previous 5v5 season. Keep in mind that I don't have insight. I probably should Patreon where I have insight, but this is not taking into account datacrons and things like that. But if you look, the 2 biggest counters to Cere are Palpatine Starkiller and Gas. And, you know, it's good that this is a defensive team that is taking that caliber of offensive team off of your opponent's board, right? If you're pulling a Gas, if you're pulling Starkiller, you're already doing some work. You know, you're not being run over by Wampa, that kind of thing. But at the same time, that this isn't really rising to the level of this is, you know, an amazing team. Obviously, it can do some really good things, and it's actually kind of interesting in offense. But this is, at the moment, not dealing enough damage to handle these teams. It's getting run over by turn meter gain, or it's getting, you know, run over by gas and, you know, just high damage and being able to be controlled by things like days. Well, what does Taron Malicos do? Taron Malicos punishes teams that want to try to run over them from turn meter gain. Sorry, Palpatine Starkiller. Malicos gives the unaligned Force User team massive damage now. Before they didn't really have a great damage dealer. Now they do. And Malicos stops things like days, and he gives that extra revive. He is a when you look at his uniques, they're all little mini leaderships, right? Like you could put together a team of unaligned Force Users. If Cere did not exist, you could put Malicos in the lead slot and put together a team of unaligned Force Users and probably still do a lot of things because a lot of his uniques are like mini leaderships. They do more than an old school leadership would do as uniques. When combined with somebody like Cere, that I'm afraid to see what this team is going to do because it's going to be big. So, what teams are we thinking this is going to work with? What teams are we expecting to see? We're just going to go here. First of all, Cere Unaligned Force Users is the clear winner, right? And I'm using Darth Talon as a stand-in for Taron Malicos. Taron. Because until later today, with the update, he's not available, right? So, Cere Junda, if you're investing in this level of team, I think Cere finally gets to pull Cal away. One of the big problems I had with Cere going into this is that Cal Kestis, the unaligned Force User Cal Kestis, is fantastic with Rey, GL Rey. And if you don't have Rey, he's fantastic with Starkiller. I use Cal Kestis with Starkiller on my other account all the time. On my other account, I already have Cal at Relic 5 for that reason. And he's great for that team. He makes the Unaligned Force Users far more durable, which is a big deal for the Star Killer team, making Mara Jade in particular more durable, where she can survive a couple of big hits, makes that team much more consistent. But in this case, with Taron Malicos, I think at that level of investment, Cere is finally justifying being able to pull Cal away from Rey or Star Killer. So Cere, Cal, Taron Malicos, and then kind of just the other two slots I think are floating slots. Kylo Ren Unmasked is a great option. He's a pre-taunting unaligned Force user tank. You could throw a leftover Inquisitor in here. You could throw the other Kylo. You could throw Scavenger Rey, or Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum. I'm sure there are reasons to bring one over the other. I'll be honest with you, between Cal Kestis, Taron, and Cere Junda, there are so many unaligned Force user synergies here that it's going to need a spreadsheet to figure out who gives what and what the team needs or wants. So those last two slots, like I said, kind of floating slots. I think you at least want the one tank, and then the fifth slot, which I currently have Ahsoka, Fulcrum Ahsoka. You could put whoever there. And then, of course, Lord Vader. Lord Vader is mentioned as a specific call-out here, and it's unfortunate that this guy is not more geared toward Lord Vader, because Lord Vader really, in my mind, doesn't actually have a lifter. This is a longer conversation, but I don't think lifters were really meant as... I don't think lifters were intentionally a thing when Jedi Master Kenobi and Lord Vader came out. I think Commander Ahsoka and Maul were obviously tied to their, counterpart GLs. And I think that was some cross synergy to kind of play up the new Conquest mode. I think that was to play up the new Unaligned Force User tag. I don't think that was something that CG intentionally meant to add a completely new tier of balance to. I don't think they meant to say, hey, now we have a new tier above GL, and that's GL plus lifter. Problem is, JMK and Cat are so unbelievably good together that kind of retroactively had to become a new tier of balance. Well, when you're looking at Lord Vader and Maul, yes, Maul works fantastic with Lord Vader, but unlike Commander Ahsoka, who fits into other teams just fine. She works well with Rey, she works well with Padme, but she's not an integral part of any of those teams. Maul is an integral part of Mandalorians. There's not really a viable Mandalorian squad out there without Maul. We've got a couple other Mandalorian leaders. The Bo-Katan has a leadership. The Armor has a leadership. Neither are particularly good. So it has created this conflict in team building that is kind of a feel bad. It doesn't feel great having to decide, okay, am I going to use Lord Vader to his fullest, and by doing so, not use Mandalorians? Everybody's mileage may vary on that, but I think we can all agree it would be really nice to have a viable lifter for Lord Vader, to free up Maul to go live with Mandalorians, or alternatively, give us another Mandalorian leader that lifts that squad up to where we don't have to have Maul. Let's be honest, having Maul as the kind of top Mandalorian leader is kind of a thematic weird feeling anyway. So, long story short, with Lord Vader, yes, Malicos can take the place of Maul, but he doesn't do what Maul does as effectively, and you're missing a massive amount of synergy, a huge part of Malicos' kit, by using him with Lord Vader. But here's where it gets fun, and I want to point out, this was pointed out to me on Discord by a couple of users on the SWGOH event server. So shout out to Devil Rolo and others for pointing this out. Kylo Ren, Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, is an unaligned Force user. When we think of Swiss Army knife galactic legends that have really universal leadership abilities, you think of Rey. Rey has a universal light side leadership ability that she abuses datacrons all the time, because if it's got a light side bonus, Rey can make use of it. There was a season where Rey was scoundrels. Rey, Dash, Han, Chewie, L3 I think was the team. Just became a thing that season because there was a good scoundrel light side datacron, and Rey is just a universal light side leader. In the same way, you see Kylo Ren with First Order all the time. And one of the big reasons you see him with First Order is he really does need Hux to kind of prevent being turn meter trained, right? But Kylo Ren's lead, he is not actually a First Order leader. When you look, his leader ability is universal dark side. Dark side allies have plus 30 speed, plus 40% mastery, and plus 50% crit damage. They can't be critical hit when they have advantage, which admittedly is a First Order thing. Whenever a dark side ally loses advantage without scoring a critical hit, they gain advantage for one turn at the end of the turn. When a dark side ally gains advantage, if they didn't already have it, they get a bonus based on their role, and it gives bonuses there. So he is a universal dark side leader with specific callouts to advantage, which again is a First Order trademark. They give out advantage a lot. But nothing says, hey, I need to use First Order here. So look at this team. Supreme Leader Kylo. Both other versions of Kylo Ren Unmasked, and just the original Kylo Ren. I've got Second Sister here. This could be any leftover Inquisitor. If you have Reva, this could be somebody like Ninth Sister, some chunky Inquisitor tank. And then Taron Malicos. You have a full dark side unaligned Force user team that has Kylo Ren's leadership ability and Malicos's unaligned Force user synergies. All of the extra damage, the savior ability, the critical hit immunity, the protection recovery, everything that Taron Malicos' kit does, nothing is limited here, right? Because the entire team, including the leader, are dark side unaligned Force users. We'll see how this plays out. On paper, this looks very strong to me. I don't know how it would do on defense because, again, you don't have Hux kind of stopping that turn meter train, but Taron Malicos does have those, turn meter punishment mechanics. So I'm very interested to see what that's like. I have Kylo Ren on this account. I don't have Kylo Ren on my other account. And on this account, when I unlock Malicos, this is probably a team that I will play around with and test. Maybe we'll have Reva by then. I don't know. If Grand Inquisitor ever shows up, my guild should be almost doubling our Reva intake. So hopefully we'll have that done later this year. But Dark Side Unaligned Force users, I think, will be a very interesting team to keep an eye on. And then people are talking, hey, well, you could use this with Starkiller. It would be a weird Starkiller. Maybe Cere as leader. Maybe a Sith or a Jedi as leader, and then of course you'd have Starkiller, you would have Taron Malicos, and then you would need a Sith and a Jedi. In this case, I threw in a Sith tank and a Jedi tank. Obviously, Starkiller wants a Jedi tank because of the damage immunity and the pre-taunt and everything, but I don't know that this would really do much. A lot of Cere's kit, a lot of Malicos' kit require or work best with a full team of unaligned Force users, and I don't know that that's going to be worth dropping to implement Starkiller here. Now, one interesting thought. In 3v3, Starkiller doesn't need all 5 of his, uniques triggers to be there. When we look, here we go. In 3v3 Grand Arenas, any combination where the team includes no more than one Jedi, one light side UFU, one Sith, and one dark side UFU. I hate saying UFU phonetically. I hate having to say unaligned Force User every time, and when I'm typing and I put UFU, that's one thing, but I just don't like how UFU sounds. So anyway, but if you have any combination of his abilities, so if you've got Cere lead, you've got Starkiller, and you've got Taron Malicos, congratulations, that's a 3v3 team. Now, will it be good? I don't know. But it's an option. It's something to play with. You lose out on having a tank, but the most common Starkiller team in 3v3 is Palpatine, Mara Jade, and Starkiller. It doesn't have a tank. It just goes fast and kills. The problem with Cere Jenda is, of course, she doesn't go fast. And that could be a whole nother thing. Also, without a Sith, Starkiller isn't doing his assists, which is not going to be feeding ultimate to him for his Star Destroyer. So I don't think there's going to be any real use for Taron Malicos with Starkiller, but it's something you can play with, right? But anyway, that's Taron Malicos coming in Conquest later today. It's July 6th. It's a Thursday. Usually CG updates on a Wednesday, but they pushed the update this week because of July 4th. So we'll have an update later today. Cross your fingers, everybody. Hopefully that's going to have Grand Inquisitor in the Journey Guide. But one thing we know it will have is Conquest data mines. We'll know what our feats are going to be. I'm going to be doing some team building and theory crafting based on that, to where Monday when Conquest starts, hopefully we can just dive right into it. So keep an eye on the channel for that. I'll post a video, may even do a stream doing some team building and trying to figure out a Conquest plan. If you like this video, if you have any thoughts, comment down below. If you want to support the channel, you know how YouTube works. You know what to do. Other than that, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.